to another episode of Tommy's Trains. Today I'm going to show you all the New York Central flyer sets that I have. I have 4 of them. There may have been more. I know there's a new one like the water level set, I think. There's probably been some other ones out there. Obviously, like the Zenith had one. I think JCPenney. There was a few other ones, and I've shown you 3 or 4 probably already. Today I'm going to show you the very first New York Central system train set that I acquired, and this probably was bought around 2007, I'm guessing. And this one was the first one that came with FasTrack that I know of. There may have been another one, but this is the first one I noticed. And this one has the rail sounds, which is different than the train sounds. The train sounds was in this tender right here. And if you remember, we had a battery in it, and so it makes like the chuffing sound, the electronic whistle and bell, but there's no crew talk. This one has the crew talk in it, and I'll show you that here in a second. And I've got most of the stuff. The only thing I don't have, I think, is 2 of the Cabooses. I'm sure I sold them at some point for something else. And I don't have the yellow bulkhead car because I hated it. It was the color of the ladder on this Caboose, and to be honest with you, I'm probably going to sell this Caboose also. I don't like it. It's an ugly color. We picked up this Caboose. This is a smoking Caboose right about the same time we got the train. So I'm going to use this one today, even though I'll show you the one that came with it. But this is a separate New York Central Caboose, and we really like this one because it smokes. So stick around for a few minutes and we'll go through the New York Central. I'll also show you the New York Central Freight expansion pack that I got. And in a future episode, I'll take out the FasTrack and I'll show you how some of the different FasTrack compares to the tube track. But for today, because I've already got this tube track set up here, this is what we're going to use. So we'll get started. So at this point in time, this is the set that I have that I don't have the box for. So it just kind of got put into a drawer. And this set came with, which I think is really cool. It's a cheap introductory freight car, but the numbers are different than the other ones. So like this one was 162440. This one is 159895. And trying to see if it shows you a built date. This one was 2001. This one was 2006. So this is probably the one that we went with this set here. Let's see, what else do we have? It came with this gondola here, and let's see if there's a date on that one. 2006. Okay, so now I know I'm on the right set. This is just an extra canister. And one thing I wish that they had done with these canisters, and it'd be easy enough to put a screw eye in it or something, is there's no way to pick this up with a crane. So one of the things I was always going to do, but never did, was put a screw eye through the top, and then you could use the magnetic crane or any of the crane cars or anything to pick these up and move them. But as it stands right now, there's no way to really move these things. This came with 4, but I had an extra one, so it's crammed in there. So these gondolas are just the standard, run-of-the-mill, basic introductory starter set gondolas, and they're completely plastic. Although this one has some weight to it because I got all these canisters in it. One of the things I'm going to show you too in one of the future videos is these fast angle metal wheels that was a design from MPC, because before that they were not these fast angle wheels, and this was a result of the 027 gauge track, and we'll show you that in another video. But these do have the fast angle wheels on them, and basically what that means is when you're going around the corner, the way that the bevel is at, it'll always be flush with the tracks. So these have rivets to hold the trucks on. The trucks are pretty much plastic down here, and the coupler, even though it's plastic, it's not very long, so it's really okay. There's a metal tab here for the disconnect, the plunger here for the operating uncoupler, metal wheels and metal side trucks. So it's okay. The balance is a little top heavy on this one because of the canisters, but for an introductory set, these are fine. These are great for little kids because if they drop it, they're not going to hurt it, probably, unless they drop it down the stairs or something, but just falling off the table will probably be fine. If it falls off the track, it's fine. There's not going to be pieces left over if it falls off. So these are what I recommend for little kids. And, there are sets out there that you can spend thousands on. And I was given for Christmas some TMCC, Trainmaster Command Control, a Locomotive, Caboose, and the system. It's all used, so I've never tried it, but that's one of the things I have for Christmas, so we'll have that in a future video. But I think if I was going to go out and buy all kinds of TMCC stuff, it would cost a lot of money to buy it all brand new. So, but I will have that in a future video. So this train has the train sounds, or rail sounds, or I get confused. I think the train sounds is, like I said, the older one, and the rail sounds was the whole shebang with the crew talk. And so the electronics for these are all in the tender, and these do have a metal base on it, and they're pretty heavy. It's just a sound card in there with some little, micro electronics. So it does have the tendency after a while to get a little staticky, a little fuzzy to listen to. But if you keep it clean, it's okay. It's pretty much the top of the line for the basic starter sets, let's say that. The same old tender. But one thing I want to show you on these tenders is, as they went through the years, they did change a little bit. You can see this one has smaller script and the stripes on it. This is just a whistle tender, but you can see the difference. So I've sold a pile of these too. I can't even tell you how many of these tenders and New York Central pieces of parts I've picked up in lots over the years. But this is the original one that we got, and I like to keep it clean. The detailing on it's pretty good. You can see all the rivets, and for a starter train, I think these are pretty good. It's got a metal coupler on the back, and it operates. And you got the drawbar here, the steel drawbar. The Locomotive is super heavy. These 442s, and these do not have the fast angle wheels on them, which is interesting. So this 442 is just like every other Lionel starter set 442, except that this one does have it does have separately applied handrails with the wires here. So it's different than like this one, where it only has the molded in handrails. I'll zoom that in so you can see it. So there's more detail on this one. And none of the other trains that before this one, the 2006 version, came with a crew in it. So even though they were made in China, they didn't have the fireman and the engineer inside. And all your firebox controls and gauges are molded in there, so it's a semi-realistic cabin. You get the jewels here, the headlight works, operating smoke unit. And this one has a plunger in it too, so it'll make little smoke rings. Some of the cheaper starter sets, like the original cheap Pennsylvania set, it just had like a little burner in there, so it would just kind of waft out, but it wasn't like this one with the plunger, so it actually makes smoke rings. So we got the front truck here is just like all the other 442s, but they don't have fast angle wheels, I guess is what it is. Die-cast. I think cast aluminum's die-cast. You get a traction tire, a can motor. You've got a smoke on and off switch. You've got a lockout so it won't go in reverse switch. So if you're going to run this without smoke fluid, you need to turn the smoke generator off or you'll burn it out. I love these trains. These are cheap. They're a dime a dozen. They're not really collector's items because they made so many of them and every starter set had one. But I think you're really missing out if you don't have at least one of these 442s because they're just indestructible. They're really a good train. So little kids, even, me, I'm 52. I love these trains because they're rugged. They're like what Lionel intended for the trains to be, rugged and made for little hands. Trains to grow up with, not out of, right? And the tender has fast angle wheels on it, but there's also a switch on the tender, and so you'll still get the bell and the whistle, but you won't get the crew talk or the chuffing. So if you are running your train around the tree for like ambience or something, ambiance, you can turn that stuff off and it won't be distracting. So you can see that it's old. This is almost 20 years old, and it does make some noise. It does voluntarily spit out some steam, whistles, and bells, and all the other stuff, plus some static. So if it's annoying, just shut it off. But this was the state of the art at the time in 2006. This is the top of the line for the starter sets. So again, here's our gondola and the operating couplers. Back in the 70s and actually into the 80s, the cheap 1980s sets, the DC ones especially, didn't even have operating couplers. They were just on there. And the MPC ones from the 70s only had an operating coupler on one end. So it was okay as long as you lined all your cars up correctly, so you could at least uncouple still. But if you, for some reason, had both of the operating couplers together, you were SOL on the other end. And the bell sounds, or vice versa, just reverse your leads on the contactor. And it's also the same with FasTrack, just flip them around. So here's the train just sitting here. So if I want to operate the pre-talk,
this is dispatch. We are dealing with a situation, engineer. Stand by for my signal. Copy that.
so with these pre-talk, you can't regulate what's going to come out, and you can't with the Lion Chief either. Really, it just hopefully you get the right sequence. Otherwise, you have to keep hitting the whistle until you get what you want.
This is the art master. You may proceed outbound. Over. Copy that, guys, master. We are ready to roll.
So luckily, the sequence was good here, but sometimes it won't be.
Dispatch 1, looking for outbound clearance. Over. You are good to go, engineer. Proceed at maximum authorized speed. Over. Thank you, dispatch. Out. This is the art master. You may proceed on the outbound track. Roger that. Fragment 1 is good to go. Out. Dispatch, we have a standing by for track on his own. Engineer, you are cleared outbound. Over. Thanks for that, dispatch. We are cleared outbound.
So if you leave it on neutral long enough, it does figure out what you want to do. But if you just energize in neutral and then just start pressing buttons, you probably won't get the right sequence. And there's been a lot of instances where the guy just kept saying, wait for my signal, wait for my signal, wait for my signal, and then finally he says okay, and that's it. So anyway, we'll get into that a little bit more in a minute, but I think it was really interesting that they did change up the numbers on these cars, because the one previous had a different number. So anyway, this is the new one. I'll put that on. We're gonna go through all the New York Central stuff I have. It's kind of the culmination of our New York Central series. So the next car for this set was a Spotlight car. This is a little different than some of the other Spotlight cars because they often had a generator sitting on it. It was like a center depressed car, flat car with a generator sitting on it, and this one has like a couple of shovels. It says track maintenance on it, some tools hitting there, some coils of wire. Looks like oxyacetylene back here. So yeah, maintenance on the track, but not the Spotlight car that you're probably used to from the post-war era. And it's fairly heavy, but it's top heavy because you got all this stuff up here. And so you got a brake wheel. Here's your pickup. You got pickups on both ends, which a lot of the cheaper stuff from the 70s, it only had a pickup on one end. It has fast angle wheels on it. The sides of the trucks are metal. This one still has plastic couplers, but the tab is metal. So for little kids, this is a good car. So this one came with 3 cars plus a caboose, which is actually kind of unusual because most of the time they only came with 2, like a freight car and one of these bulkhead cars. And like I said, I got rid of the yellow one. It was just gross. So I have a green one, a gray one, and a brown one. So this is the caboose that came with it. And when you got the New York Central set, you get a lit caboose, whereas the Pennsylvania set, which was a grade below that, and maybe the Chesapeake and Ohio, some of those other ones, I don't think they came with lit cabooses either, but I may be wrong. So this one was a step up with a lit caboose, and you can change the bulb in there. You just have to take the top off, which is easy enough to get to. But this one, has all metal trucks on it. Everything's metal, operating couplers. So, your basic caboose, but at least it's lit. So we're not gonna put that one on though. I'm gonna put on this one, which you can see is considerably bigger. But we're gonna use it. So the way you put the fluid in this is you take the smokestack off. And then you just put a couple drops in. Let's see, you need a few drops. You're not going to souse this. And then there's a tab on here, a little rib that you stick in, and then you put the smokestack back on. While we're at it, we'll add some smoke to the generator here. If you put too much in there, your smoke generator won't even work. I've seen that happen a few times. So you can see that the smoke unit works on both of these. We got the end-of-train device. And what I wanted to show you too is all four of these renditions of the New York Central train set all have different road numbers on Locomotive. So 8644, 8632, 8602, and this one is 8635. So you could have a whole stable of these locomotives sitting there, and they're not the same train. So that's pretty cool. I think that they had the foresight to not make all the newer and latest renditions of this set have the same road number. And you can see this one has the water tank, the water heater in the front, and then they went to not. Well, first they started with not, and then they went to with, and then they went back to not again. I don't know what that was all about, but you can see this one also has some white trim on the wheels, and this one has white stripe on it. While it's still basically the same train, they did do a little bit to change it up and make it a little bit more interesting. So you could, in theory, have all four of these locomotives sitting there, and they all have different road numbers on them. So I think that's pretty. The New York Central, they did, or Lionel for the New York Central, they did make a passenger set, but I don't have it, but I'll pop up a picture of it here. And it's basically the exact same thing as what you would get for the Pennsylvania set, other than the graphics obviously were changed, but you still got they got the coach, the combine, and the observation car, 4 pieces of straight track, some cans, and some road signs or billboards or something. The freight set came with this car right here with a load in it, load of coal. So New York Central hopper, and this one is 2006 as well. The freight expansion pack. It also came with this tank car. It's just does have metal on the sides. It's plastic. It's just like every other, cheap introductory car. The balance is okay. Metal wheels and trucks, operating couplers, single dome. The Pennsylvania one I think was a triple dome. And then let's see, it also came with this log dump car. And these all have fast angle wheels also. Your logs that would sit in this cradle. And then we'll put the factory caboose back on. So here we have the New York Central, the original train with rail sounds, and we've got the expansion pack